Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. My name is Emil from the Demartini Institute. I'm part of the team here. I'll be your MC for this evening. So we're just giving everybody a chance to join us as we're getting ready for Dr. Demartini to join us. Can you please share in the comment box where you're from, and just want to see where the demographic is for everybody. Hi, Ria. I see you. I see Maria from Melbourne. Hi, Michelle. Oh, I see Philip Ivy is also on. I spoke to him recently. And can you also just share where you're from and also in what industries you guys are in, please? Just give a minute or two for everybody to join. Wow, it's going quickly. Hi, Rosalind. Bonwin from South Africa. Those of you who just joined, welcome. We are about to get started. This topic for this evening's webinar is the healing power of gratitude. The duration of this webinar is going to be about 60 minutes long with questions and answer. And at the end of the webinar, I'm going to have a special exclusive offer and bonus for you. This is only available to those who stay until the end, but it will definitely be worth your time, that I can promise you. Dr. Demartini is going to be delivers his life-changing 2-day seminar, The Breakthrough Experience, all over the world. And if you're interested in what we discuss here today and the impact that could have on your life, then the Breakthrough Experience is going to allow you to take that to the next level in the ways you probably can't imagine yet. So stick around with us. If before we start, you should definitely get a piece of paper or be able to take notes. So you can quickly grab a pen and paper before I introduce Dr. Demartini, before he comes online. And then you'll see the chat box on the right-hand side. We are going to shut it down as we are going with the webinar during the duration. But please, if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat box. They will come through to me, and then I can pass them through to Dr. Demartini, and we can get them answered. Okay. I've had a privilege to work with and study with Dr. Demartini for the past 11 years now, and I'm inspired to introduce Dr. Demartini with you. He is a man on a mission. He's been dedicated to studying human awareness and potential for the last 47 years, especially relating to mind, body, and healing. He has traveled more than 45 million kilometers in sharing his research with people from all over the world, and today he's here to share this wisdom about the healing power of gratitude with us. It's a privilege for me to introduce to you Dr. John Demartini. Welcome, John.
Yes. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever people are coming in. I see they're coming in from all over the place.
Yeah, I know. That's amazing, huh? So are you ready to... Yeah, it's amazing.
I'm presently in Sydney, Australia, and so I'm coming in from down under.
That's great. Are you ready to get going, Dr. Demartini?
I'm ready.
Great. So, Dr. Demartini, you and I chatted, before this talk, and we've discussed a bit about the healing power of gratitude. And I just want you to share a bit with our audience. Where did your love and where did your journey start with the healing arts in the first place when you started?
Well, I really didn't have a conscious awareness of think about the healing arts until I turned 17, 18, when I met Paul Bragg the night that he spoke. And that was the night that, because I had had a health issue right prior to that almost took my life, I had a void there. And after meeting him, I really did see a vision of what I wanted to do. Wanted to be a teacher, wanted to learn, overcome my learning problems. And I wanted to be studying the mind, body, and spirit and healing. And so natural healing. So I started then. And that was the first area of inquiry that I was fascinated by. In fact, the very first book that I ever even tried to read in my life was Chico's Organic Gardening and Natural Living from a health and natural food perspective. And then I went into studying nutrition and then fasting and then physiology. And then I went on pre-med when I went on to school and eventually became a chiropractor. So anything to do with physiology, anything to do with healing started at 17, 18, and then started building. And then I realized that I wanted to not just do it one individual, but I wanted to do it collectively and bring about healing to larger systems. And so healing has been the essence of really driving what I've been doing all these years. And I still love physiology and still love applied physiology. It's one of my favorite topics.
It is an amazing subject that we are discussing here tonight, and especially the correlation between the two. And we have discussed the two aspects of healing, where there was a split between the Nadian school and the Cone school. Can you please explain the splits, and also whether you think there's a shift nowadays into a more holistic type of healing that's taking place?
Well, first of all, the ancient Greeks, I mean, I'm sure healing goes back before the Greeks because there were civilizations even before that. But in the ancient Greeks, which influenced the Western world, there was a Cnidian or Nadian school and a Cone school. Hippocrates came from the Cone school, and he believed that the real healing came from within, and it came from our behavior, our perceptions, our decisions, our actions, our behavior, and how we ate, things of that, and how we thought. The Nadian school was more externally driven. They thought in terms of external sources were causing healing, and therefore external solutions were for healing. When I was in professional school, chiropractic college, we discussed these two forms of healing. And for some reason, I was not slanted towards the Nadian philosophy as much as I was the Cone school. And not that it doesn't have a place, because, if we're in a highly infective area and we have toxic materials and toxic waste and toxic places, if we were to go to some really polluted areas, it can affect our health. So I don't want to ignore the idea that external things can initiate and impact our health, because it's obvious: water, air, food, things of this nature. But at the same time, when you have an external source, we sometimes look for an external source for solution. So if you blame a bug, you look for an antibiotic. And the thing is that our psychology and our physiology is underlying some of those conditions. We now know that even recently in Scientific American, they talked about some of the immune responses we had that we thought were extrinsically driven were also based on the vulnerability of the body and what the environment was inside the body as much as outside. So I'm a believer that you really have to have an understanding of both. But I like to give people as much power as possible by studying the inside. I want them to know that it's not so much what's on the outside as how we perceive what's out there, and then what we decide to do with it and how we act upon it. And this is what we have control over. We don't have as much control over the external in many cases. I mean, we have in some respect. We could move, we could change our environment to some degree, but we definitely have a perspective that we can change. And I'm more interested in that. That's why I develop the programs that I do, because I want to give people their power back. Because many times we just assume it's outside there, and therefore it's an outside solution, kind of like a devil made me do it, and a savior is going to save me from it. The germ is going to cause the problem, an antibiotic is going to solve it. But the thing is many of us have germs. I mean, I know people that have various types of health conditions that have dormant viruses and bacteria in their body, and they don't have any signs or symptoms for 30, 40, 50 years. Then if they get under a highly stressful situation with their perceptions, now the psychology now brings out that viral or bacterial infection that's been sitting there, in a sense, hibernating and dormant. So our psychology has a play in that. And that's why I'm more interested in helping people in that area to change their diet, to change their psychology, and to some degree, change their environment if they can.
That's very interesting. Thanks for that, Dr. Demartini. And as I've been researching about this, there's a lot of content coming out of the internet and the magazines these days that support gratitude. Can you take us through what science has revealed about the healing power of gratitude, and what is still missing in the popular literature that would complete the story for us?
Well, I think that gratitude has been acknowledged for centuries because gratitude, I define gratitude as a perfectly equilibrated state of mind, a state of equanimity, a state of poise, a state of presence. I've been teaching a program called the Breakthrough Experience for over 30 years. And in there, I introduce the Demartini method to people. And when I do, I have them ask a series of questions that make them aware of what their unconscious is hiding from them and allows them to put the conscious and unconscious together in a nice balance and makes them fully conscious. And if I balance the equation of that conscious and unconscious and have them in a state of equanimity and equilibrium or balance repeatedly by the thousands now, I've seen people automatically feel gratitude. And I always say that gratitude is the key that opens up the gateway of the heart. And inside the heart is love, expresses love. That window washes the mind and brings inspiration. That also then brings enthusiasm to the body. And it brings more certainty to the mind because it's not wavering, and more presence to the mind because it's not vacillating between past and future. And that is very powerful in healing. And gratitude, without question, in my opinion, with love that comes out when you are grateful, are two of the greatest healers around the planet. I could tell you stories and stories of people who've had all of a sudden spontaneous remission of conditions when they had a deep realization and discovered the hidden order in their apparent chaos about situations that were stressing them and liberating themselves from that, which they do with the Demartini method or any vehicle that allows them to balance their mind. A perfectly balanced mind is grateful. And that means you're not going to change you relative to others. When you put them on pedestals, you're going to want to change yourself to others. When you're resentful, you're going to want to change others to you. And those are states of ingratitude. If you want to change things, you're wanting to fix things, you're ungrateful for the way it is. And when you're ungrateful for the way it is, you're putting stress in the equation. And you're also not seeing things because you're judging. And those shut down the immune system and actually impede the expression of physiology and its natural tendency for homeostasis. So gratitude is one of the most powerful mechanisms of expressing homeostasis in the body, or allostasis for dynamic motions and systems in the body, and allowing us to bring the autonomics back into balance, etc. In fact, I was working with a lovely lady this last weekend, and I was in Denver, Colorado. And on Saturday night, I was doing columns 6 and 13 of the Demartini method. And in there, I was asking her to go to a moment where and when she perceived an individual displaying or demonstrating a specific trait, action, inaction that she was despising and disliking most. And in that moment, I had her get present with her. Where was it? When was it? Who is it to? What exactly is the content of the actions they're actually doing? And what's the context, the motive for doing it? And then who are they doing it to? Are they doing it to her or to somebody else? And in that precise moment, when I get her present and close her eyes, I have her become aware of the unconscious, of what and who is doing the exact opposite to balancing it. And I made her go through that. And each time we did it, we brought our equation back into balance. And each time when we finally got it perfectly balanced, quantitatively, qualitatively, her eyes watered up. She got this aha. She became fully conscious of both sides at the same time, a synchronicity, and out came gratitude. And then we did that repeatedly over and over again and shed subconsciously stored emotional baggage that she'd had about this person. When she was done, she had tears. Her heart was open. She was grateful. She felt certain about it. She was present. She was inspired by what had happened. And she had an enthusiasm to want to interact and say thank you to the person and also move forward on her own mission. And this is the healing state. So I always say that the healing state starts with gratitude.
And you just touched on it a bit. Can you please elaborate more? What is the 4 cardinal pillars of healing that you do go through? You did touch on a bit there, going through that story.
Well, when I was in chiropractic college, the very last year, I attended a program in Dallas, Texas, that was being presented by a gentleman named Jim Parker. Now, Jim Parker was somewhat of a legendary chiropractor that had a very large practice and started educating other chiropractors on how to have a more viable healing mastery. And he said that there were basically gratitude, appreciation, in other words, he called it, approbation and approval. That was one, which I call gratitude. He said there was faith, confidence, and belief, which is two, which is certainty. He said there was present time consciousness, which I call presence. And there was the love concept, what I call love. So he had the four cardinal pillars of healing, which is gratitude and love of the heart and certainty and presence of the mind, inside his discovery of what made great doctors. Now, I had the opportunity to work with Dr. Denton Cooley, who was one of the greatest cardiovascular surgeons in the world. And they had the entire Texas Heart Institute that was built around this man. And he had people from all over the world coming there. I mean, thousands of people coming around the world to come and be able to get his cardiovascular specialty. And I had the opportunity to deliver surgery schedules to him when I was in my 20s, when I was 21, 22 years old. And I got to meet him and I got to do rounds with him. I got to watch him do the surgery and think of that. It was a great education. But the man had amazing bedside manner that demonstrated the cardinal pillars. I remember he used to hold the patient's hand, and these people were usually 60s or 70s with this cardiovascular problem. And he'd hold their hands and look them straight in the eye and say, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, or whoever it was, I just want to let you know that your surgery was beautiful and successful, and that soon you'll be able to play with your grandkids. You'll be able to work in the yard again. You'll be able to go back to work. You'll be able to lift things again. You'll be able to hug. You'll even be able to make love. And he would look them straight in the eye, and he would just say it with such presence that these people would have tears come out of their eyes. Now, he knew that the cardiovascular procedure, which, believe it or not, he didn't always do. He had sort of disciples doing much of the work, but he would oversee it. He knew that there was need for surgery, but at the same time, he also knew there was a need for bedside manner to make sure that they were not stressed and they reduced the anxieties associated with their health. And so he basically would go in there and get really present with them, make sure they opened their heart with gratitude, felt love, and so they had certainty that they were okay now. And I watched him do this over and over again, and I could see that very few people in cardiovascular specialty could ever do what he did as far as getting results, because he knew that there was a technical technique orientation that was needed in cardiovascular surgery, but there was also a psychological component. And gratitude and love of the heart and certainty of the presence of the mind, without a doubt, are great components of the healing arts. Now, I've had the opportunity when I was in my late teens and early 20s, and even late into 20s and 30s, to travel in many places around the world and get to see great healers. I worked with the healer of the Dalai Lama. I worked in Beijing. I worked in the acupuncture centers and herbal centers there and watched healers. I've seen cardiovascular. I've seen endocrinology. I've seen different fields. And one thing that I found to the greatest healers is that they're grateful for the opportunity to do what they do. They really love their work. They love serving people. They love their procedures. They were certain about what they could do with people, and they're really present. And those I call the four cardinal pillars of healing. Whether it's the patient having those or the doctor and the patient having those, unquestionably they enhance the body's physiology and immune system. Our autonomic nervous system requires both support and challenge to maximize healing. If we get overly supported, we get parasympathetic dominant. If we get overly challenged, we get sympathetic dominant. If we get a nice balance of those in our perception synchronously, we have a healing process. And that comes out in tears of inspiration, tears of gratitude. And most people, as they've gone through their life, they've read a book, watched a movie, listened to music, or had something that brought tears of inspiration and gratitude to their eyes. These are healing. I cannot describe that except that when I had those in my office, the most amazing results that I ever had brought tears to my eyes of gratitude. And that is not only healing to the patient, but it's healing to the doctor, and it inspires the doctor to want to do even greater healing. But I say that those are the four cardinal pillars: gratitude and love of the heart, certainty and presence of the mind. For some reason, I'm not hearing, there you go.
So Dr. Demartini, sorry about that. So how do we awaken those four healing powers in our own life that you've just described?
Well, that's a great question. I've been fascinated by that because I've known about those since very young. So when everybody has a set of priorities, a set of values, and whenever they're living congruently with their highest value and they're living by their highest priorities each day, they have the highest probability of being in the executive center, the forebrain, where they have the most objectivity in their perspective. But if they're living and attempting to live by lower values, by the injected values of others, and they're not inspired and they're living by lower values, they tend to be more subjectively biased. So they tend to be more impulsive and instinctual, which is seeking and avoiding and distracted from being really present. So anytime we live by high priority actions and fill our day with high priority actions that inspire us and pursue challenges that inspire us, that are really important to us, we automatically have a higher degree of objectivity, which is even-mindedness, which leads to gratitude. It also helps us open the heart with love. And then we become more certain because we're not wavering, we're not distracted, and we're more present. So because we have a hierarchy of values, whenever we're living by our highest values, we're healing. And I've had people who've had digestive problems, irritable bowel syndrome, scattered emotions, all of a sudden write down every single thing that's on their mind, which I outline in my prophecy program, the distraction resolution process. And I go through there and make a list of everything that's on their mind. We prioritize it. We delegate what we can. We do what we can by priority in time frames. And we sort through our mind and get back to priority in that moment. The moment we do, physiology changes. I've seen gastrointestinal systems calm down. I've seen anxiety perceptions calm down. I've seen dry skin and skin conditions clear up. The second we prioritize our life and live by priority and bring order to chaos, to our chaos, we automatically bring that gratitude, love, certainty, and presence back into our experience. So prioritization is probably the most significant thing we can do. Then also, if we don't fill our day with high priority actions that inspire us, it fills up with low priority distractions that don't. The low priority distractions cause illness. Symptoms in our body are feedback mechanisms to guide us to live authentically, congruently, and in alignment with what we value most. So if we give ourselves the chance to prioritize our life and not let the world on the outside dictate our actions, but the one on the inside. See, nobody's getting up in the morning and dedicating their life to your fulfillment. So if you're not prioritizing your life and deciding what's really fulfilling and filling your day with it, you're going to get bombarded by opportunists and people that are projecting expectations, well-meaning, but they're projecting their values onto you and expecting you to live in theirs. And anytime you conform to those on the outside, instead of lead from those that are inside, you automatically break yourself down. Anytime you're not living by your highest values, the unfulfillment that occurs makes us seek immediate gratification in our amygdala, our subcortical regions of our brain. And that allows us and pushes us to go towards impulsive, compulsive, immediate gratifying, even addictive behaviors, which lead to illness, etc. Because anytime we're trying to get a pleasure without a pain, a positive without a negative, a one-sided world, we're going to create illness. Wisdom is realizing that life has both sides. I'm not a nice person or a mean person. I'm a combination of both. You support me and I can be nice. You challenge me, I can be mean. So anytime you're expecting yourself to be one-sided or expecting others to be one-sided or expecting the world to be one-sided, you have a delusion and you're down in your amygdala, because an objective state embraces both sides. Objectivity means you're even-minded and fully conscious to see both sides. When you're fully conscious seeing both sides, you're well. Illness is when I and the universe around me are not in sync. I'm either exaggerating myself or minimizing myself to people around me. I'm either infatuated or resentful, having them on pedestals or pits, and minimizing or exaggerating myself, having inequity within myself and around myself. And that's illness. And illness is just a feedback guiding us back to wellness. And wellness is we. The seer and the seeing and the seen between myself and others are one. We wellness, we-illness, instead of illness, illness. And so if we balance our state of mind by living by our highest values, we bring healing or wellness to our body. Wellness means wholeness. It comes from wheel, which also is derived wealth. Wealth and health come from the same roots, because you tend to be more health conscious, you tend to be also more wealth conscious because you feel vital and energized. Anybody in business knows that when they have more vitality and energy, their business goes up, and therefore the more prosperity goes up. So those have been found socioeconomically to be sourced together.
Thanks for that, Dr. Demartini. And you have a process called the Demartini method, which leads a person to experience a state of gratitude and love. Is it enough to experience a generic gratitude, or do you have to have a specific gratitude for healing or specific healing to take place?
That's a really important question. I'm glad I think I would have overlooked that. When somebody comes up to you and supports you and say, "Oh, you're nice, you look great," they say, well, positive things to you. It's easy to feel, oh, grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. When people challenge you and do things that challenge you, you might have an opposite of anti-gratitude at that moment. But that form of gratitude is sort of a superficial form. The real gratitude that I'm talking about that heals is the one that you can see the hidden order in the pairs of opposites that bring tears of gratitude to you. So the lady that I worked with the other day in Denver, when I was actually having her look at when this person did this trait, action, inaction that she despised most, and found out who was doing the opposite and balancing it, it wasn't the positive side that made her grateful. It was the realization that those were balanced, that the challenge and the support were balanced. The rejection and the acceptance were balanced. The lies and the honesties were balanced, and all the pairs of opposites were balanced. And that gratitude is a deeper, more profound, and more intimate feeling of appreciation for the universe instead of, oh, thank you for that little gift you gave me, or that little praise you gave me. Because being addicted to praise attracts criticism. Being addicted to protection attracts the violence. Being addicted to support attracts the challenge. Because nature needs both to maximally grow. Maximum growth and development occurs at the border of these two sides. And so when we are thankful for one side, but not both sides, that's a different form of gratitude than we see the balance of both sides. And we see that both are needed at the same time. Imagine if you were an animal and you had prey that you were eating, that you had an impulse for to consume, and you had a predator that you had an instinct to get away from. If you had no predator and you had only prey, you would tend to overeat and get gluttonous and get sluggish, and you'd lose your fitness. If you had predator and no prey, you'd get eaten and you'd starve and you'd have no fitness. But if you have a balance of predator and prey, you eat just enough to make sure you're not fat and sluggish and make sure you don't have too many calories. You can't run fast because otherwise the predator will target you because you're fat and you're slow. So maximum fitness occurs at the border of support and challenge, prey and predator, ease and difficulty, pleasures and pains, positives and negatives, all pairs of opposites. So the synthesis and synchronous of opposites is what I call love, but it's also the very source of gratitude that brings healing. That's why wellness and fitness go together, because you're seeing and embracing both sides at the same time. So there's a difference between a superficial gratitude, like, oh, thank you for supporting me, and a real gratitude when you see the hidden order in your apparent chaos and see both sides synchronously. In the breakthrough experience, I introduced the Demartini method. And the Demartini method is designed to help a person do exactly that. So if somebody is doing something that they resent, they immediately ask a series of questions. What specific trait, action, inaction do you perceive this individual displaying or demonstrating that you despise most? Great. You define it. You got to concisely define it. Then you go to another question. Go to a moment where and when you perceive yourself displaying or demonstrating the same specific trait, action, inaction in some form or fashion. And you have to identify where it was, when it was, who it was it to, and who perceived you doing it. Because it's easy to judge somebody. It's another thing. It's wiser, though, to look and see that if you're reacting to it and you're resenting it, it's because it's reminding you of something you have inside you that you're ashamed of. And if you have that person bring it up and you're upset and wanting to reject them because you're now resenting them, you're actually avoiding the very issue that they're bringing into your life. The shame that you're storing that's in your subconscious mind about events that you've done, that's why it's bringing it up. They only get lemonade out of something that has a lemon inside. So if you don't have the emotional charge inside that doesn't bug you, or if you have a charge on yourself, they'll remind you of it. Because sometimes we're too proud to admit what we see in others inside us, But the fact is we do. We have what we see. I've done that in thousands and thousands of people and proven that. Then we go in there and ask, go to a moment where and when this person or this individual displayed or demonstrated this particular trait, action, inaction that you despise most. Okay, there, you got the where and the when, you got the content, context. Now, how did it benefit you in that moment and from that moment forward? Primary benefits, secondary benefits, tertiary benefits. How does it serve you? How does it benefit you? And you stack up the benefits, and when the benefits equal quantitatively and qualitatively the drawbacks, your perception of that goes from resentment to, oh, thank you. When it's equal, you have gratitude. Then you go to the moment where and when you have demonstrated this trait to the people you've demonstrated to it, and then you go in those moments to look at where and when you did that and how it served them in their primary, secondary, and tertiary benefits. How did it benefit them at that moment from there on? And when you see that, you dissolve shame and guilt that you might have. Then you go and identify where and when this person or this individual displayed or demonstrated the exact opposite trait to what you said. Or otherwise, you would have labeled them only one-sided, and there is no such thing as a one-sided person. I'm not a nice person or a mean person. I'm a combination of both at times. So then you got to look at the other side so you don't label the person, which is a subjective bias. And you start doing that, and you're starting to realize that this is just a human being. And they're reminding you of things you've judged in yourself. And you're resenting them because you haven't been able to face that about yourself. And you've been judging it. And they're brought into your life to help you break through that and love that. Because no matter what you've done or not done, or what they've done or not done, you're worthy of love ultimately. Then you go to the exact moment where and when this individual displayed or demonstrated your perception. Then you go to that moment and you look at where it was, when it was, who is it to, what's the content, what's the context of it. And at that moment, when they did it to whoever they did it to, who is doing the opposite? And when they do you find out who's doing the opposite, you see the synchronicity of opposites, which brings a tear of gratitude if it's done properly. And that's very thorough in the Demartini method. Then the last step in that is to go to the moment where and when they displayed or demonstrated the trait in your perception. You're there. At that moment, if they had done the opposite, what you hoped they would have done, different than what they actually did, the fantasy you were holding on to, that you had an unrealistic expectation should have happened. And you go at that moment, if they had done that, what would have been the drawback? And now you look at the drawbacks if they had been the way you fantasize them being, which is what led to the resentment in the first place. If you go in there and balance that out and answer that, all of a sudden you're just going to feel gratitude for this person. You're going to have your heart open. You'll feel love. You'll get a tear of gratitude. You'll be inspired by what they've done for you because you'll see that it's on the way, not in the way. And you start the healing process. And anything that you haven't brought into balance is stored in the subconscious mind and running physiology and actually changing, 200 to 800 milliseconds before you're even consciousness, your responses that you think you're in control, but you're not. You just have an illusion that you're in control. You're an automaton reacting to misperceptions that are stored from the previous imbalanced perspectives. And then you end up creating illness. And the illness is there to try to let you know that anything you haven't loved, you now have the opportunity to love. And if you don't love it, your illness will keep cascading until you finally get that message and go back and love it. So the Demartini method is a very, very specific science of asking very specific questions that give specific results that bring a balanced equation to the mathematics of the mind and allows people to actually feel gratitude, love, certainty, and presence, and also be inspired by what their future is and enthused about taking actions towards it. And there's also another side. You could have an infatuation with somebody, and it's the same process, but in reverse. You're now looking for the downsides because infatuations is putting people on pedestals, resentments are putting people in pits, but love is putting people in hearts. So as long as you put people on pedestals or pits and not in hearts, you're going to create illness, and you're going to store those in the subconscious mind. But the second you do the Demartini method and you equilibrate that, which is one of the reasons I do the breakthrough experience every weekend, and that's why hundreds, and I mean hundreds of people have been referred to the breakthrough experience from psychiatrists, psychologists, and other health professionals to get that healing. Because sometimes the procedures we do on the outside are not as effective as what you can do on the inside if you bring about a balanced state. A lot of health issues, tons of health issues I've seen clear up in the breakthrough experience because of that.
And Dr. Demartini, do you believe that anyone can heal their body? And going with this.
Well, that's been a good puzzling question for centuries. I don't want to go to such fanaticism that says that no matter what stage of a condition you are, or no matter what the condition, that the right attitude is just going to miraculously transform it and heal it that on the spot. That's a bit of a stretch sometimes, because some people are at such late stages of cancer when their immune system is not working. They've had chemotherapy. Their physiology is not at its peak. And not that there aren't cases of spontaneous remission. There are. And there are many people that have had it. But I don't know if I can guarantee that we will uncover the very sources of each psychologically stored, subconsciously imbalanced perspective for some of these conditions. So if we did nail those, and we were to uncover those, which is the art and science of the health professional, amazing things happen. I just don't know what the limits are. I don't want to say it can't be done, but I don't want to say it's always going to be done and mislead people, because I've seen sometimes people have illnesses as strategies for an objective. I had a lady that many years ago, I guess probably 23 years ago now, I'm guessing, that's just a guess. She had 3 kids, and when she was raising those children, she did a lot of smothering, apparently. At least that was their perception. And all they wanted to do is the second they got around 18 to 23, I believe, they snuck out of house as fast as they could. And they got jobs and careers in as far distant lands as possible. They didn't want to be around their mother. And they thought that she just smothers them and controls them and is, very guilt oriented and a lot of emotional blackmail, I guess you could call it.
That's funny.
If you don't do this, you don't love me, and these kind of things. Classical emotional blackmail. And, she tried everything she could to get them to come and visit her and use guilt trips, and they just kind of ignored it and everything else. And when she ended up with a serious, quote, cancer, they brought him home. They came home. And I was chatting with her because one of them asked me to chat with her and converse with her about her illness. And when we start asking questions, what's the benefit of your illness? Because many people are afraid to ask that, and they don't think that's possible because they just assume illness is bad. You got to get rid of it. There's a war against the illness, instead of realizing that you have functional physiology here and that there's diseases of meaning. There's a purpose behind this. My friend Kim Jobs, who's in London, well, in England, wrote a beautiful paper with 2 other gentlemen on the diseases of meaning, and I think it's a fantastic paper. But it's basically talking about that there's a meaning behind your illness. There's a purpose behind it, and discovering it is part of the healing process. And I'm very firmly believe in that. And most are strategies that are unconscious. They're motives. I could go on to give some stories of that. And that's why gratitude and love, which changes the motive, is so healing. But this individual, this woman was basically, when I asked her what are the benefits of her illness, her cancer, she says, well, there are no benefits. That's what she started with. I said, no. Nobody does anything without a motive. Let's look at the benefits. And we started listing the benefits. And the one that brought her tears and really had her crying, he says, nothing else worked. The only thing that ever got my kids home was this. And I just want my kids home. And she cried and bawled. And I said, so what you're saying is that you created the illness partly to get your kids home. And she looked at that and she was just dumbfounded by the realization that she might have gone to that extreme to do it. And she said, I haven't been able to find any other way. There has been no other way I can get them home. They just won't come home. Now that I've got a serious illness, it worked. It's a strategy. Now, I've seen this in many cases. I've also seen illnesses to get out of things they don't want to do, illnesses to dodge relationship issues, illnesses to get out of a marriage. I mean, I've seen amazing reasons for illness. So I do believe that we are there's unconscious motives for many illnesses. I've seen a lady who had diabetes that, she had no intention of getting well because the closest people in her life were the people that were taking care of her for her illness. And so when I told her I could help her with her diabetes, she actually didn't want the help. She was just running around doctor to doctor, just pretending like she was looking for help. But she was having somebody wheel her around in a wheelchair. Somebody took care of her. Somebody did blood tests. Somebody did injections. And she had a love group. And her family had gone away from her. And she was there. And the only people that loved her were the people taking care of her health. So she had a very strong motive to induce health. And when I finally had a conversation with her about that, I said, that's fine. If I'm there to help you if you want it. But if you're getting too many advantages playing what you're doing and you prefer to have that, even if it leads to deterioration and ulceration of the legs and eventually amputation and everything else, you would still rather have that with those side effects, then I under that. That's respectful. That's your decision. But if there's a way where I can show you how to actually have the healing process and still have friends in your life and still have loved ones and still have things like that, let me know if that's interest to you, that I can show you how you can do that. But it's interesting that sometimes there's unconscious motives for the illnesses. That's why I ask people, what are the benefits you're getting out of it? And people don't like to hear that sometimes. I've seen that with injuries when I was in practice. I would say, all right, so you got in a car crash and you sideswiped a car and you hurt your neck and things of this nature and you got bruises. So what are the benefits you're getting out of it? Because if you can find the benefits equaling the drawbacks, your immune system will heal much more rapidly than if you're sitting there being a victim, being bitter, being angry, and thinking there's some outside, injury and want to blame and accuse somebody and everything else. You don't heal as fast, but you heal when you finally hit an order and the meaning behind things. That's why I'm a firm believer in finding and balancing out the mind for healing. And I've seen pain thresholds change. I've seen secretions, neurotransmitters, regulators, modulators, hormones change. Without a doubt, I've seen people with low thyroid who are suppressing and repressing what they really want to say to their spouse. When they go through and do the Demartini method on their spouse and level the playing fields and the breakthrough experience, they go and communicate with their spouse, and all of a sudden their thyroxine levels change. And they're all of a sudden going back up again. And they go, what did I do? And I said, well, you actually started expressing yourself. And when you repress yourself, you run your thyroxine down. And when you express yourself, it goes up. That's why many people with low thyroid have difficulty speaking, have slurred speech and hesitant speech, and they hold back in, hold things in, usually females. And then when they're hyperthyroid, they usually tactlessly speak out, not thinking about what people will think about it. They just speak. And so those are emotions that are affecting hormonal expressions. If you're really proud, for instance, your serotonins go up and your testosterone goes up and your growth hormone goes up. And if you're ashamed, it's just the reverse. So you can literally change your physiology and neurotransmitters, regulators, hormones, modulators by changing perceptions, and change also in actions and also in diet.
Yeah, it's amazing what strategies we put in place in terms of trying to help ourselves. And Dr. Demartini, you talk a lot about memes affecting genes and affecting phenotypes. Can you please unpack that a bit for me?
Well, I think everybody has had a situation in their life where they have a tight side, and one side of the body, if they stretch a certain way, it's tighter than on the other side, it's looser. And they have an asymmetry in their phenotype. Phenotype is their body type. Their genotype is the genes that gave rise to it from the haploid sides of the mother and father making a diploid genome. They're expressing that phenotype from the mother and father. The memotype is the psychology, the perceptions that they have epigenetically picked up or that they've just experienced through their life. And so when we change our perceptions, which is a memotype, like if all of a sudden somebody comes up to you and said, all tall people are more successful and more confident than people that are short. And they just if somebody says that, it's not necessarily true, but people may say that. And then you subordinate to them and they're your authority. You can actually inject their idea, their meme, their mimetic memory and idea that they've stored inside you. And you can run around with a belief like that. Now you can filter your reality and cause a chain reaction in your physiology that if all of a sudden you see a short person or a tall person, you're either negating or affirming, putting down or putting up. And it's just a belief system, and it's not necessarily a truism, but people can do that. Now what happens if you get around some short person, or a short person comes up and wants to date you, for instance, and you're now wanting a tall person because you think that's going to be more successful. Then what happens, you got a stress response, the sympathetic nervous system activates, you get more norepinephrine and epinephrine and cortisol coming in. That causes methylation of the histones and the DNA and represses some of the DNA expression and transcription. And if you all of a sudden get to be with the other one, let's say the tall one, and you like that, that can activate the parasympathetic and do just the opposite. And so you can epigenetically alter genes and proteins and histones and functional and structural proteins in the cells and in the body by these responses. And so the perceptions, which are the memes, can affect the genetic expressions, which affect the phenotype. And so we are manifesting that. In fact, if we are going through our life and have more support than challenge, we can suppress the growth hormone. If we get more challenge than support, we can actually grow it up, because testosterone and pride come in and it makes us testosterone. We get taller. So we can affect our genetic expression even at a young age by how we're perceiving our environment as more challenging than supportive or more supportive than challenging. Just like and this is occurring even in the womb during gestation. They know when the mother is highly nurtured and safe and comfortable, and the estrogens go up and the testosterone goes down, it starts a kind of a neophytic slowing down of the development process. But if it's challenging and there's adrenaline and there's a little testosterone going in, kicking in, it speeds up and it makes it precociously advantage to the child. And Gould described this in Demartini and recapitulation models of development. And so we can literally accelerate or retard the development inside the genetics and the epigenetics inside the child is developing, but also upon their birth and their development. So we get too much support, we keep them juvenilely dependent. We get too much challenge, become precociously independent. One suppresses it, causes estrogen and shuts down growth hormone, and the other one turns it on and makes testosterone and a higher growth hormone. So why? Because we want to stand up tall to fight for the testosterone, and we want to relax and be more meek on the estrogen. The one's aggressive and assertive, and one's passive. So those affect our physiology, and our memes, our perceptions affect our genes, affect our phenotype, and they're inseparable. And if you go in and change genetically modified genes on species, you can affect phenotype and psychology. And at the same time, if you go in there and change your state, change your phenotype, you can change your mind and therefore your transmitters and your gene expression. They all work in a three-way mechanism there. But I'm a firm believer that the one that you have control over the easiest is your physical phenotype expression, and by your body patterns, and also your state of attitude. Because you may not change your genes directly, but you can indirectly epigenetically change and regulate the effects of those genes.
And Dr. Demartini, I know we've spoken about this before. What happens at a cellular level when we perceive when a cell is perceived as challenged or supported? Can you explain that process again, and then also correlate the impact that gratitude has on the cell?
Okay, I'll pack a little deeper. Let's imagine a cell, a circular cell, with the genes inside the nucleus and a plasmalemma or cell wall on the outside and a nuclear wall on the inside. Inside the little one circle there is the genes. Outside is the Golgi apparatus and all the other organelles that make up the body, the cell. And then on the cell plasmalemma or cell wall are little receptors, glycoproteins, which are sugar proteins. They're like little antennas that are responsive to transmitters and modulators and hormones and secretions from other cells that are distant or close. And what happens is those transmitters are impacted and governed by the autonomics, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So if you perceive yourself challenged, your sympathetic comes on. If you see yourself supported, your parasympathetic comes on. That causes acetylcholine in the parasympathetic side and norepinephrine, epinephrine on the sympathetic side, or cortisol. Those go into the cell wall receptors. That activates a second messenger. The second messenger activates with calmodulin a kinase on the sympathetic side and a phosphatase on the parasympathetic side. That causes a cascading of a bunch of enzymes go through the nuclear wall, inside the cell nucleus, and into the DNA, into the proteins that wrap it, the DNA histones, and cause methylation or acetylation, which affects the slowing down or speeding up of the transcription of these proteins. So the DNA is shut down in expression for fight or flight. It shuts down, and it turns on when you arrest and digest. So that can cause an increase or decrease of certain transmitters, certain transcription of different amino acids, which are building the body and also are used for secretions. So those cells are responding. Every cell in the body is responding to these perceptions. And that, if it's imbalanced, has illness. But if you bring the perception of challenge and support into perfect equilibrium synchronously, we have gratitude. And when we see the hidden order, our heart opens love, and our transmitters and second messengers and all the cascading enzymes and all of the epigenetics balance out, and we have a normal physiology. And I really believe that the normal physiology and the symptoms are trying to let us know when we're loving, because it rewards us for that. And when we're creating an excess or deficient of the sympathetic and parasympathetic responses in the cell, we create symptoms. And that's giving us feedback to let us know that somehow we're conscious of one side, unconscious of the other. So if we're resentful to somebody, we're conscious of the downsides, unconscious of the upsides. If we're infatuated with somebody, we're conscious of the upsides, unconscious of the downsides. Those imbalanced unconscious states, if they're brought into full consciousness with intuition or doing the Demartini method, like in the breakthrough experience, or asking the right questions and bringing us to see the order, well, heart opens the second we're grateful. We see the hidden order, love comes out, inspiration comes out, we become enthused, become certain, we become present, we bring healing. So gratitude is the initiator of that cascade. And then we have this freedom, and our physiology rewards us with tears of gratitude, feelings of vitality. We feel more magnetic and more capable and confident, and we heal. And I really don't know what the limits of that are. As I said, you asked me whether there's any condition could be affected by it. I think probably if we look through the literature, I know there was a book called Spontaneous Healing, came out many years ago that I had, and it has many, many documented cases of people that had illnesses that got healed. I really don't know what the limit of it is, but I know that throughout the history, there are documented cases of just about every condition, almost every scale, that has transformed and gone into remission and changed. And I've seen it. I've seen an unbelievable amount of things change in physiology, and sometimes even cancers do that. So I don't know what the limit of it is. I don't know if I will, or the patient will, or we will narrow down all the variables and all the subconsciously stored emotional baggage and get that cleared in time for there to be a healing. But I really believe that the power that made the body can heal the body, and that we have the capacity inside if we change our perceptions, change what we feed our body, change somewhat of the environment that we live in, and we start to live by priority, purposely towards something that's inspiring, that we love doing, that we're enthusiastically want to go do. I'm amazed at what we can do with healing in that case. That's why I say count your blessing.
I'm going to ask, thanks for that, Dr. Demartini. I'm going to ask you one more question, then I'm going to open the floor for the attendees to also to ask questions. So if you do have questions, please type them in on the side there. I'll ask it for Dr. Demartini after this. Dr. Demartini, I remember I watched an amazing TED talk about Elizabeth Blackburn regarding cells and telomeres. She spoke about that they never get old. Can you share how that relates to the topic of today?
Yeah, I love watching that video. It's a TED talk. I believe she was a Nobel Prize winner. And I had been studying telomeres for quite a while. So when I came across her work, like finally somebody documented it, I knew that telomeres were shortening. Every time a cell divides, the telomeres theoretically shorten. And there was a Hayflick limit on the number of divisions that cells could actually do that. If we look at the zygote, which is the sperm and the egg unite, and then we look at the number of divisions all the way to where we get the number of cells we have in our body, it's about 49 or 52 or something like that, 50 different divisions, and we have a human. But there's a Hayflick limit that basically said that cells have a limited number of reproducings, duplications, mitotic divisions. And but that's primarily because these telomeres are shortening, and eventually when it stops, the telomeres get to a certain length and it stops. But then they found out there was an enzyme called telomerase, and telomerase enzyme actually allows the telomere to elongate, to allow that to keep mitotically dividing. And so what they found, and what she found, and what I had already found, so it wasn't news to me, but it was inspiring to see such a caliber individual document it, was that whenever we're doing something that is inspiring to us, that challenges us, but we love doing, like a young boy who loves his video games and goes after and wants to tackle more advanced video games, or like myself, whenever I'm studying something and I get an insight, man, I don't want to go to sleep. I want to keep reading and get on the internet and go researching and see if I can find another mystery solved. When you're doing something that you're absolutely love to do and you're inspired and you're really grateful for the opportunity to learn and absorb or do some action that you love doing, maybe it's playing a sport or whatever it may be, and you're doing it and excelling at it. When you're doing something you're inspired by, you have more resilience and adaptability because you're more objective and you can take both sides of life. See, resiliency goes up whenever you're not infatuated and fearing the loss of something, and when you're not resenting something and fearing the gain of it. When you have a balanced orientation, you don't have a fear of losing it or fear of gaining it. You're neutral, and it can come and go. This is what is resiliency in fitness. So when you're in that state, telomerase enzyme goes up. So that's a eustressful state, not a distressful state. But when you're highly infatuated or highly resentful and you have a highly polarized, subjectively biased, extreme misperception of life, you fear the loss of that which you infatuate with, you fear the gain of that which you resent, you have no resilience, no adaptability, and you have distress because you're looking for one side and trying to avoid the other, and the other's smacking you with it. So the second you end up having distress, the telomerase enzyme goes down, and every time you undergo divisions, you end up stopping that growth process, that evolutionary process. But when the second you're doing and pursuing what's highest on your value, you're more objective, you're embracing both sides, the support and challenge equally, maximum fitness, as I said. Your telomerase goes up, your telomeres lengthen, and whenever you're pursuing what's highest on your value, you have the highest probability of achievement. When you have achievement, you tend to set goals that are expanded. And the reason why your telomerase goes up, in my opinion, is that it allows you the space and time horizons to expand to achieve ever greater things. Now, I don't know what the limit of that is, and I don't know how long we could live. There's cases of people living 120, 130, maybe 140, I think, recently. But I just don't know, when you're doing something you absolutely love doing and you're inspired by it, you're grateful for doing it, and you're enthusiastically doing it, and you feel certain about the principles that you've mastered doing it, and you're present doing it, you don't age. You have a timeless mind, ageless body, as Deepak used to say. Your telomerase goes up, your telomeres lengthen. It gives you the power to go and live a longer life in order to fulfill a bigger vision. And to me, that's what it is. That's what the whole purpose of the breakthrough experience is. It's the whole purpose of my method, is to try to help people maximize their awareness of the two sides of life and their potential as a result of being grateful and seeing how we heal and how we live our life to the fullest. That's the thing that I love in Breakthrough the most when I'm doing Breakthrough Experience in the evenings, particularly on Saturday night. I mean, sometimes I'm right there with people having tears of gratitude and watching them break through and seeing the hidden order in their apparent chaos and finding the two sides to the events and realizing that their subconsciously stored emotions weren't even true. They had just never looked and become fully conscious. But when you're fully conscious by doing the method, Saturday night's amazing. It's just amazing watching people break through and have tears and gratitude and watching what's possible in a human being. And then the next day people go, I slept differently. I had less noise in the brain. I had more inspiration when I woke up. I have more energy. I didn't need as much sleep. It's like I want to write and I want to work on something. I've got some clarity again. And I think that's adds to the wellness factor. The wellness quotient, I don't know of anybody that could go through the Demartini method that can't have had an increased wellness quotient. I'm firm about that because I have one doctor who's in Calgary, Canada, who has probably sent 400 patients to Breakthrough Experience. And there was a psychiatrist in Houston that used to work at NASA and take all the care of the astronauts, probably another 375 patients. And I have patients from many, many countries that come from doctors to the Breakthrough Experience because they know that the character and the habits that they have and their perceptions and decisions, if they go to Breakthrough and clear that out, it will help them in the healing process. It'll help them healing in not only their relationship with themselves, but their relationship with the perceptions they have with other people, which sometimes spills over into greater relationship dynamics in families and loved ones. It could show up in social impacts. It could show up people at work. There's many different repercussions and ripple effects from doing that method and helping people become grateful and count their blessing, because they can count their blessing. They do at the end of the breakthrough on Saturday night. They've counted their blessing. They've gone through and taken something they thought was a mistake in the universe and found out the hidden order of it and realized there's nothing out of order there. And when you see the magnificent hidden order in life, you bring order to your physiology. When you see chaos and when you have an unrealistic expectation for others to live in your values, unrealistic expectation you live in other people's values, unrealistic expectation on life being one-sided, not both-sided, unrealistic expectation that people are supposed to remember, to be one-sided life. They're trying to be positive all the time or without negative or this kind of thing. Anytime they have false expectations, they're automatically increasing their illness level. And I watch it. I see people with depression and psychiatric systems and dissociations and physiological effects affect their gastrointestinal, their immune system. They now know the immune system is kind of like as a sensory system. It takes microorganisms and it takes the ratios and it's monitoring those ratios like a measuring system of the ecosystem and giving feedback to the brain to let the brain know what transmitters to go in and change the autonomics, to change the microbiome, to bring it back healing. So our microbiome is modifying and changing very rapidly according to what we eat, what we think, what we feel, what environment we're in, and it's trying to adapt. And we used to take antibiotics out of ignorance. I haven't had an antibiotic in my body since 1972. An aspirin, I don't take drugs. I've not had any drugs. But what I found is that some people are just running and taking drugs and they're killing out the microbiome, and they need those microbiome. They used to remove the tonsils and remove the appendix out of people out of ignorance. I thought that's insane because the appendix is a lymphoid organ and so is the tonsils. Those are primary lymphoid issues. And when I was 23 years old, I saw that, studying the histology of that. And I go, this is all lymphoid organs. These are essential organs to regulate microbiomes. That was known back to when I was 23 in 1978 even. And so I'm amazed at how they used to just remove those things over and take away the very immune system we need to heal, because we had a model that was antiquated today. And that was that bugs are bad instead of microorganisms are essential for physiology and they have to be regulated, and our autonomics are regulating that, and our perceptions are affecting that and helping us regulate that. So that's why the Demartini method in the breakthrough experience to me is so crucial, to master that just for yourself. Even if you don't even know you have an illness, by helping you master that, you prevent those, and it can help you bring about a wellness factor, a higher quotient of wellness factor.
Thanks for that, Dr. Demartini. I've got
I'm starting to warm up.
yeah. I've got a few questions from the audience about grief and how that has an effect on our health, grief.
Well, unquestionably, prolonged grief affects lots of problems. I mean, there's cardiovascular symptoms that have been historically associated with digestive systems. Various metastatic cancers have been perpetuated by the state. I don't see how, because grief, this is probably anybody who's never heard me and not been to the breakthrough experience and not seen it live and has not seen the research that we're doing on it. You'll be shocked a bit by it, but I am absolutely certain, and you can hold me to it because I've done it 3,580 times. 3,580 cases of grief I've gotten to dissolve. And so I'm certain about what I'm about to say. But grief is a perception of loss of that which you infatuate with, or the perception of gain of that which you resent. That's grief. And grief will never happen without its concomitant entangled opposite called relief. And relief is the perception of gain of that which you seek and perception of loss of that which you try to avoid. And they always come in pairs. And if you don't see but one and you're conscious of the things you feel grieving of, that means you're infatuated with somebody and you feel like you've lost something you were infatuated with somebody, or you gained something you resented. In some cases, if there's a grief over the death of a loved one, then you're feeling you perceive a loss over the things you once admired in them that you don't get to have anymore. So if I take those things you admired and make a list of those, find out who is now providing it, because nothing's ever gained and lost, it's just transformed. I learned that when I was a teenager and proven that. Then if you look at what would be the drawback if it would continue that behavior, and what were the drawbacks, you'll find out that every behavior, every trait, every habit has a benefit and a drawback to it. If I stack up the drawbacks to equal the benefits and level that playing field and show you the new form it is and the benefits of the new form that it is, all you do is are very grateful and the grief is gone. So I can guarantee, I mean, I've gave money back guarantee. I've done it on TV. I've done it in scrutinized under test settings. I can guarantee that I can dissolve grief in 3 hours or less. And people go, that's not possible. They're living in an old paradigm. I've developed a science in the breakthrough experience. I reveal it, show it, and do it. And I'm absolutely certain that that's a dissolvable state. And that grief, if it's prolonged and is not dissolved, is going to affect physiology. your digestive system, your immune system, your breast, if you're a female, are going to be affected by it, your uterus, depending on who that was and what that grief is about and who it's about, will affect physiology. And the second you dissolve that grief, you can feel the immune system, you can feel the energy, you can feel the physiology just lighten up. You can see it right on the spot. I mean, people are just remarkable watching people on Sunday when I do this in the breakthrough experience each week. They go, "My God, you look younger. Your face looks different." You're like, and they go, "I just feel like all the noise in my brain is gone. I'm not feeling any grief. I'm feeling grateful again." Because when you really love somebody, you feel their presence. When you're grieving the loss of somebody, you're actually caught in an infatuation and fantasy about how it was supposed to be or how it used to be that you're now grieving the loss of. And it's an addiction withdrawal symptom from things you infatuate with, because you never grieve the things you resented in somebody when they die. You don't miss their stinky farts. You don't miss their yelling and screaming. You don't miss their arguments. You only miss the things that you were infatuated with. Once you finally realize what grief is, and I can show you, and I do it every week in the breakthrough experience, you'll understand how powerful it is to bring your mind back into balance. And that's what brings gratitude. I have people actually grateful for the passing of their loved ones every week in the breakthrough experience, which is hard to comprehend for people who've never heard that or seen that. But I look at my eyes, I'm telling you, come and see that live. And learn the method so you have it. Learn how to do it. That's the beauty of it. Because you're going to have that, you're going to face it. Everybody's going to pass someday, and somebody's going to have loved ones pass, and you're going to face it. So you might as well be prepared and know the science of it. I've taught thousands of people this science, and it works.
Thanks so much for that, Dr. Demartini. I just want to be mindful of everybody's time. So I just want to, you spoke about the breakthrough experience and what it's about. And I know you travel the world and you present, this amazing program, the breakthrough experience in multiple countries. Can you please help us and explain how attending the breakthrough experience will help someone wanting to master the healing power of gratitude and what skills they will learn at the breakthrough experience?
Well, in the breakthrough experience, I'm going to teach on a Saturday. It's usually on a weekend, on a Saturday throughout the morning, some very powerful principles, which I would say summarizes psychology, philosophy, some of theology, and physiology all in one. I mean, you're going to get the best of the best of 47 years worth of research summarized, and a model of how to maximize your awareness and potential. I'm going to teach you also about values. So you're going to learn what a hierarchy of value is, how to live by priority, what it does to physiology, how does allows you to maximize your potential, and how to be inspired, and how to live an inspired life instead of quietly living desperations as a result of conforming and subordinating to the world around you. And that's so important. If you want to make a difference, you have to stand out, not fit in. And so I also teach people the Demartini method in there, and that is a very profound tool that you will use the rest of your life. And it's a series of questions they're very concise and very precise on how to take emotions, emotions like pride, shame, infatuation, resentment, grief, anger, any emotion that's keeping you from being present, inspired, grateful, and loving. I'm going to show you how to dissolve it, what the emotion is, what causes it, what questions to dissolve it on the spot, and do the method and actually make you do it and show it to you. So you will actually take the most extreme emotions you've had with the most extreme emotional people you've dealt with and show you how to dissolve it. So it's not theory, you're going to now do it. And you're going to dissolve it, you're going to get a result. And then you're going to see the physiological changes. You're going to get to see the physiology literally live in your physiology change as you do it. And you're going to feel the tensions change and the emotions. Every time you have imbalanced perceptions, you have piezoelectrical alterations in muscle and bone, and you create electrical chemical imbalances. And you can feel these things when you're stressed and tense, and you can feel them go away as you do it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to show you how to own the traits of the great, so you're not subordinating to people on the outside and trying to live in other people's values and self-defeating. A lot of people have negative self-image. They self-depreciate. They have internal dialogues that are what they call sabotaging, but it's not. It's just feedback. But I'm going to show how to dissolve all that so they can be inspired and be clear about their mission, inspired by the actions, enthusiastic and wanting to take over it. And the tools that I give there are really solid, and they're reproducible. And I'm going to show you how to do it. You're going to do it. You're going to see the results there. So you're going to get clear about a mission. You're going to be clear about your values. You're going to be clear about what your objectives are. You're going to learn how to manifest those. And you're going to dissolve all the subconsciously stored emotional baggage that we can work on and that we can to liberate you so your telomeres grow and you expand your game. Because you deserve to play an amazing game. And the breakthrough experience, that's what it's about. So you're going to help yourself to manage emotions. You're going to overcome challenges and take things that you didn't think you could even solve, show you how to turn them on the way, not in the way. That we're going to show you how to communicate in relationships. So you have, instead of alternating monologues, you can have dialogues, and how to love and equilibrate the relationship so there's respect. I'm going to show you how to clarify your vision and mission, get you in the executive center so you're clear about that. That's going to expand your space-time horizon. It's going to wake up your genius and leadership capacities. And I'm going to show you also on how to power all 7 areas of life, because any area of your life you don't empower, somebody's going to overpower you. So I'm going to show you tools on how to empower those, what those powers are, and how to empower those areas directly. And the Demartini method is going to be useful in all of those components. So I cannot emphasize how important that method is. I mean, I was 18 years old. I'm now 65 almost. And I've been working all those years to learn and develop that method to help people. And I've been clinically doing it for over 35 years, doing it into thousands and thousands of people. So the breakthrough experience is life-changing. I ask people every weekend at the end of the breakthrough experience, how many of you learned something this weekend you could have gone your entire life and not learned? And every hand goes up. And they definitely see that there's information. It's original. It's not a rah-rah session. It's a very in-depth explanation of how and why we do things in our life and how we can transform our lives to empower and inspire our lives. So I could go all day on it, but all I know is that the program has been taught in now over 30 years. And I've done it in 63 countries, and tens of thousands, in fact, hundreds of thousands of people have been to this program.
I must say, Dr. Demartini, I did my first breakthrough experience 11 years ago, and I'm truly, truly grateful to be able to learn this method and to be able to apply this method. And I'm sure many of you would also love to learn how to apply some of the advice that you've heard today from Dr. Demartini, and you are considering to joining the 2-day breakthrough experience program. I would just like to share the details and what we have to offer for you today. So the Demartini Institute, we have put together a special offer for you today, where you'll be getting a ticket to Dr. Demartini's 2-day breakthrough experience. Plus, you will also get a 12-week breakthrough experience acceleration course. So that is after you've attended the breakthrough experience. It's practical application, snippets and teachings that you will continue to get from Dr. Demartini after you attend the breakthrough experience, and that is worth $995 US dollars. And then also what you'll be getting with that is also access to a private invitation only breakthrough experience community. So that is a community that continues to learn and implement Dr. Demartini's work and the principles that you have learned at the breakthrough experience, and that is invaluable. We have students from all over the world there that continues to grow and develop themselves, which is amazing. Then we've also got included in the offer the #1 selling course, Inspired Destiny. So this is a course that you will get if you take action today with your booking, that you can start working through the process and through the program so long before you get to the breakthrough experience. And then with that, you will also get a one-on-one priority power assessment with one of our consultants, where we'll basically take you through the 7 areas of your life to see where you're currently at, to see where you want to go, and to see what's holding you back in each area of life. And that's worth $150 also. And as and for the breakthrough experience, how much discount you will get on the breakthrough experience. You'll see the link is below where you can click, as will take you specifically to your country where you can take up that offer. And then if you do get challenges with your booking, you can go on our website with our team. They are also available there. And then also you will see if you do want to take a payment plan option, if you can't commit to it now, there is a payment plan option also available to you for that. And then also, we've also got another exclusive offer of 50% off the ticket price for your children. If they want to come and attend the breakthrough experience after you've booked on, you can talk to our team, and then we can arrange for your children to attend on a 50% discount for the breakthrough experience if they're between 16 and 28 years old. So if you do want to take up this offer, it's a phenomenal offer we've put together here for you. It's only limited for this webinar. that we've got on now, please click below on the right, and then it will go through to the booking page. Dr. Demartini, do you have anything else to add to that?
Well, just first of all, thank you for helping us go through this process and gathering questions. I would love to have more. I'd love to answering questions for hours, but I just want to thank whoever's listening out there. You know, those that have, I've been teaching now for 46, almost 47 years. And I've noticed all these years, including in myself, the people who take the action the most and show up and educate themselves are the ones that need it the least, but they're the ones that go the farthest. And the ones that need it the most are the ones that do it the least. And they're the ones that don't go as far. And I've seen it over the years. So all you know is you can't put your hand in a pot of glue without some of the glue sticking. And you can't put your mind into principles that will stand the test of time, which I'm absolutely certain the breakthrough offers, without it sticking. So you can change the trajectory of your life. And I want to help you with that. You know, one of the most inspiring things I get to do in my life is watch people's lives change. And when I talk like this on a webinar, that starts the ball rolling. Some people really send in thank yous. They love the program. But it's nothing like actually sitting there with somebody for 26 hours and actually getting to work and actually getting there right inside what's going on in them and finding out what's blocking them and helping them get past it. So if you'd like me to help you with that, I want you to come and join me, because I know you're going to say thank you. And I know it's going to be life-changing. And I know your trajectory of life is going to expand. And I want to do that because I have two reasons. One, because I want to see the change in your life. And two, because I love watching people's open hearts and see the vision. And I like that feeling of doing it. I feel like I have meaning in my life doing that. So it gives me an inspiration to do what I set out to do when I was 17, which I'm still doing. And it also watching people's lives change. That's you tell me. I don't know of anything that's more meaningful in life than making a difference and contribution. So find a way to come to the breakthrough experience. You'll say thank you. You're going to learn something you're not going to learn anywhere else in the world. And you're going to have tools and the technologies and methodologies that can work right there on the spot. You're going to see it work, so you won't be able to argue with it work. You know it works. And I'd like to help you with that. So come and join me, and just know that I thank you for coming on this particular webinar tonight. And I look forward to seeing you live when you're there. And so thank you, Emil. Thank you for helping me tonight. And thank all of you for joining me tonight. I look forward to seeing you at whatever breakthrough, whatever is convenient to get to. And so have a great night or day or wherever you are in the morning or afternoon. And please tell other people about our webinars, because you know every time at the end of the breakthrough experience, I have people, how many of you thought about people who could have benefited by being here? And every hand goes up and they think about people. So if you think that there's a benefit from this webinar, please pass the torch and help us reach more people and come to the breakthrough experience, because I look forward to meeting you and want to make a difference. So that's it. Thank you, Emil. Thank all of you. You have anything you need to finalize?
Thank you. You know, Dr. Demartini, just from our side, thank you very much for taking up some of your valuable time and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. We really appreciate you know what you are doing. And yeah, you know, like we said, please don't let the finances stand in the way of you know, attending the breakthrough experience. We are here. We do want to help you. Get in contact with our team. Go to our website, drdemartini.com. And go on the chat there if you do want to speak to us there to make it possible for you to attend. But for today, with this offer that we have for you here today, click on the link that's on your screen now. That will take you through to the booking page. And then we'll look forward to having you there. Just to remind you that you will get with this booking today is the 12-week Breakthrough Experience Accelerator course. You will get access to a private group on Facebook. You'll get the Inspired Destiny online, and also you'll get a one-on-one priority power assessment with one of our consultants. And then, of course, the Breakthrough Experience. And if you do have your children also want to come and attend the Breakthrough Experience, we do have the 50% discount for them. That's also available. So if you can, please get in contact with us. We'd really love to have you there. Thank you, Dr. Demartini, for your time. We really appreciate that.
Thank you all. Have a lovely evening, morning, or afternoon, or dinner, wherever you are in the world. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Demartini. Take care.
Thank you.